Yeah, yeah.
What's up, YouTube world?
Hello, everyone. Sorry, I'm a little late.
Welcome back.
It's part 2.
This is Hannah.
I'm Naomi. We are the Walker sisters, and we're really excited. I'm going to dive a little bit deeper into my background, my history, what that looked like for me. I am the second oldest of the 7. I am kind of what everyone thought was the more independent one. She finds that funny. Anyway, so I graduated high school in 2006. Hannah told us kind of before, we had a very religious background. If you weren't able to catch that, make sure you go back and watch. But we did have a very religious background. We grew up in the church. We went to church 3, 4, 5 times a week. We were constantly there. We were constantly learning. We did a ton of scripture training. I actually ended up going to public school all the way until my junior year. My junior year, I decided to transfer to a Christian school. And I spent my last 2 years at a Christian school where I graduated from a Christian school and then spent a year out of school, spent a year at a community college, and then decided that I wanted to travel 10 hours north to go to another Christian college or another Christian school, which, no one really warned me heavily about living in the cold. I went to school in Michigan. It was freezing. It was really cold. If there's one thing that I remember about going to school in Michigan is it was cold. But I learned so much more about Christianity and just the things that we had been growing up on and were taught from childhood, and really dug deep into the Bible and its meanings, even its context. I took a lot of classes on the history, the actual, the original context, the language that it was originally written in. I just learned a lot about that. And so in that time I was at college, I got my bachelor's degree there. I was there for about 5 years, 5.5 years, and eventually graduated from there and moved to Nashville because I did not want to be in the cold anymore. Now, I know Hannah's mentioned a few times she is single, so let me plug that real quick. Right? Happily single.
Happily.
I'm not. Happily not. I love my wife. I have been married to a beautiful woman since last year sometime.
February.
Right? Can we put
January,
this online? Should we not put
December.
this? She's probably going to watch this, huh? Do you know my wedding date?
I thought
That's
you
good.
got first married in
We
December.
did. We got married December
But
29th.
Officially, we were married February 13th.
No, that's backwards.
We were married.
Right, that's what she just said. Notice I'm the independent one, right? No, so yeah, my legal marriage date is December 29th, but my wedding date is February 13th. So, but I'm happily married. And so with that though, when I moved to Nashville is where I actually met my wife. And I lived in Nashville for about 6 years. I actually started doing church there when I was back in school. The year that I graduated college in Michigan was the year that I actually came out myself. I was 23, which is really funny because Hannah was also 23 when she came out.
It's a good year.
It's a great year.
It's
a great year. So I was 23 as well, and I had been in 3 really unhealthy relationships. But I had that same mentality, if you meet the right man, you'll fall in love, and then all the gay will be taken away. Yeah. And I did end up meeting a man that, I was willing to give up all of those other relationships for. And I did, and I was with him for a little while. And to be honest, it really solidified something for me. It wasn't that he wasn't amazing. He was an amazing man. He treated me very well. He's very respectful. The family loved him. He was honestly, I don't know. I thought they did. The boys loved him, that's for sure. But he really was a good man. And I know that he's now married. He's got a beautiful wife. They're very happy now. There's no hard feelings there that I know of. But I thought that I was going to find whatever that was that would cause me to lose the feelings that I had for women in my life. And it really made it a lot more clear that those weren't going to go away no matter who it was.
Yeah.
And so at 23, you know, I finally said, you know what, I'm not going to do this anymore. And to be honest, I was in a very unhealthy relationship at the time. And the person I was in a relationship with asked me just a real simple question, you know, are you sure you're not gay? And this was probably the first time that I really thought about it. You know, what if I am? What if I just like women? You know, what if this really is me? And I had gotten in touch with someone who I knew had similar experience to myself, and actually ended up talking to my sister as well, and was provided a couple different materials to help kind of read and research and understand who I was and why I felt the way that I felt. And it was a tough year. I was kicked out of every church that I played in because you know, I was a drummer. I was a touring musician. I played with 4 or 5 churches at one time, and I would tour throughout the U.S. and was playing with some big name rappers, some artists who were Christian artists who, you know, I really fell in love with, and in terms of the music and what I was doing. And I got kicked out of all of the churches I was playing in. I got kicked out of all of the bands I was playing in, and for no other reason than they could not have someone who was accepting this lifestyle being a part of their team. And it was as simple as that. So at that time, this was I was really not wanting to live in Michigan anymore anyway. And so I said, you know what, I want to go somewhere where it's warm, and I want to go somewhere where there's lots of music. So I ended up moving to Nashville. And in that time, like I said, I met my wife. But while I was in Nashville, I started playing downtown Broadway. I started playing in all these different locations, met a ton of great people. But I decided I wanted to try at church again. I wanted to stay in church. And I actually auditioned for one of the biggest, most well-known churches in the city of Nashville. And they had 6 locations. And I told them up front, I said, look, this is me, this is who I am, I don't want to lie to you about this, I want to be very straightforward about this, but I want to play, I want to worship, I want to do these things. And you know, at first they were very accepting, they were really excited, they hadn't had an opportunity like this before, and so they welcomed us in. But it only took a few more months before I could really feel the tension and a lot of the, I don't want to say anger or hatred, but to be honest, that's what it came across as. That's what it felt like. There were people leaving the church. I was getting messages of people who were just not happy because they found out that I lived a certain lifestyle that they were not okay with.
Name that lifestyle.
What's that?
Name the lifestyle.
Oh yeah, no, because I was living a gay lifestyle. I was a lesbian, and they were not okay with that. I found out that one of the top contributors to the church actually left the church. They were also part of the worship team, and because of that, I was no longer being put on the schedule to play. So there's a while I was, you know, I was pretty consistent. You know, I was one of the better, and it doesn't help that it does help that I'm a woman, but I'm an incredible drummer for being a woman, and so it really made me stand out in a lot of ways. And so people wanted to know who I was, and I was playing at the top campuses. The people were, you had 5,000 people per service who were sitting in those campuses, and I was playing for them, you know. And then people were figuring out who I was and the lifestyle that I lived, the fact that I was a lesbian, and they were literally leaving the church because of it, and letting the pastors know, letting the people who were in charge know. And to be honest, that's a lot of weight to bear for me. But it also fed into the worship team, because I didn't have friends when I was there. When we moved to Nashville, I didn't know anyone. I didn't have friends. I didn't have people. It was kind of like, I want to go somewhere, and we went. And so it's really tough for me. It was really tough for me then to kind of say, I'm trying to build friends. I want to find friends in the church. And it just felt like I was constantly being put on the outside. And I would go to the meetings. I would go to the hangouts. I would go to, you know, the events to try to be present. And the more I went, it felt like the more I was being shut out. And so slowly I stopped being put on the schedule. I was still going to the meetings. I was still going to the events. And eventually one of the team members actually asked me to join their band that was outside of the church. And that is when they explained to me what was happening, why I was being taken off the schedule, why I was why I was kind of being ostracized in a sense. And it just made it really clear to me that I didn't want to put myself in that situation anymore, and I didn't want to put other people in that situation either. Yeah. And so at that time in my life, I was still struggling with the fact that I was just coming out. I was just figuring out who I was. I didn't really know who I was. I was just figuring it out. I'd accepted that I was a lesbian. I accepted it. I accepted that I was attracted to women. Women. I was attracted to women. I mean, one woman, because I have my woman, but you know what I mean. Fix it. I know, because she's going to watch this and be like, oh, you attracted to women, huh? No, she's not ghetto. But maybe I should edit that part out.
No.
Yeah, maybe not. Okay, so I just kind of stepped away from the church at that point, and to be honest, I hadn't really made an attempt to go back to that location. But that's neither here nor there. So, fast forward a little bit. I spent 5 years in Nashville. I met my wife. We ended up moving to Memphis, where we became entrepreneurs ourselves. We had a business that we were running, and then 2017 was coming to a close. I had just had my 29th birthday, and 3 days later, we got some pretty life-altering news. Our father had passed away, and it was kind of a tricky situation because we were in Memphis, but all of our family was far, far away except for one brother. And I was the closest person to him. We had John and Solomon were in California. Hannah and Mom were out of the country in Bahrain, and Titus was in Virginia. And I knew that I didn't want him to have to take care of everything by himself. It was going to be tricky trying to get everyone, and so I said, you know what, if nothing else, I want to make sure I'm there for him. So we ended up leaving the night that we found out to make sure we were here. But an amazing thing happened for all of us, really, as a family, because what started out as something that felt really scary and kind of like we were going to be alone, we actually ended up finding a way. Mom and Hannah both ended up flying in from Bahrain.
We had just left. We were just visiting the States, and the day that we were leaving, I had gotten the message that he was sick and not doing well. And then 3 days later, he had passed away. And so, it was like a crossroads. Do I go back home or do I stay here? And in that time, the struggle was so real. And I just realized I needed my family. Yeah.
It was a very emotional situation for all of us. And so Mom and Hannah ended up coming back. Shortly after that, we found out that the funeral wasn't going to be for a couple weeks. There were some things that needed to happen. And so in that time, we found a way to not only get Hannah and Mom back, but also get John and Solomon and Michelle back as well. And so everyone that was out in California was able to get back into Virginia. And we ended up spending, was it a whole week and a half or something?
It was a week and a half, 2 weeks.
Yeah, we ended up spending about a week and a half to 2 weeks in the same house.
And it had been years since we were all in the same house at the same time.
We're pretty busy people. I can assure you that we all have a lot of ventures happening all over the place. But it was pretty amazing because we were able to get everyone back into the same house, and we spent so much time together as a family and just learning who we were as adults, learning who we were as people, learning who we were as friends and family. We talked about so many of the things we experienced as kids, and it was really a beautiful thing. It was really something that I think ultimately changed us all for the better, and really solidified the fact that, Walkers are Walkers and will always be Walkers. We will always be together. We will always be a family. So shout out to the Walkers, Kaya, Malachi. We love you guys as well. Kenya, we love you as well. So, so that happened, and in that time, in that 2 weeks, and ended up working out that Cassie and I, my wife and I, had a decision to make. We had to kind of determine, Titus opened his house to us, said, hey, come stay with me. We've got more than enough room. You can move some of your businesses out here. You know, you can do some things. You've got more ventures. You can kind of tackle more area. And so Cassie and I had to make a decision. Do we stay in Memphis? Do we, you know, come to Virginia? And we ultimately decided that we were going to end up in Virginia. So here we are with the family. Hannah, myself, Titus, Kaylee, kids, lots of kids, love the kids, always love the kids. There are 6 kids.
Total.
Total. Lucky for us, there's a big enough house that we all have our own space. So, Steven's here too. So we've got a ton of family. We love our family, but did I hit everything?
Yeah.
Is that it for me?
Yeah, you hit a lot.
Cool. So, in the next couple of videos, we're really going to be diving into some of the relationships that we've had. We're going to pick a couple key relationships, and we're really going to get a little, I'm not going to say a little because I'd be lying. We're going to get really kind of intimate about it. You know, we're going to dive into some things. We're not going to share any names or anything like that. We may make up some names, you know, but ultimately we're really going to dive into relationships that we had that really helped us understand who we were as people and how we got to this place in our lives. So we're really excited. Like I said before, you always want to like, always want to share, always want to subscribe. Tell your family, tell your friends, share it with people you know who are struggling, and help us get the word out. Help us help people, okay? Help us help you, right? Did I miss anything?
No.
Independent one. #strong. We're the Walker sisters.
Yeah.
See you next time. Yeah.